there's nothing wrong with selling something fake. There's nothing wrong with selling a refurbished device, but something is purely wrong when you start to sell these things and advertising them as originals, 1, and 2, brand new, which is something that's happening in Zimbabwe currently. Recently, there's a surge of fake and refurbished devices being advertised as being new and brand new and boxed in Zimbabwe particularly. And I would like to help out to the guys out there, people who want to buy smartphones. I know we all love beautiful things, like we want to buy iPhones, we want to buy the latest Samsungs and stuff like that, but the market isn't as good as you think right now. It isn't as fair as you may want it to be. So I want you to be very informed when you are making decisions on buying these things. So there's a recent surge of fake devices. I'll start with the fake devices. And then we can move on to the refurbished devices. So for the fake gadgets, we are being affected a lot in terms of fake devices. The inflow of fake devices has recently been astronomical. That's what I can say, astronomical. It's really scary, and these fake devices have come to a stage where they are so hard to tell from the originals. So how do you know this is fake and this is original? Now, my number one recommendation is pricing. Please, if something is priced, it's such a price that it seems too good to be true, chances are it's really not. It's not an original. So pricing can often be the best teller of something that is fake and something that is original. For example, I recently walked past a store that had a Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra being advertised on their displays, and it was with a price tag of $280. And immediately when I saw that price, I was like, damn, many people are going to be scammed in here. So in my experience, the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra would go for anywhere between $699 to $780, 80 somewhere there. If you find something that is below that, then it's either refurbished or most likely fake. And I say most likely fake because these devices are being mass produced, fake things in China, and our dealerships are buying these things and bringing them to us and selling us these gadgets as being original, which is very wrong. And so getting from that, my second advice for you guys to check whether your device is original or not, I would go on to say that you should study whatever it is that you want to buy. If you want to purchase a smartphone, know everything about that smartphone, from the packaging, from the specs, from what the screen looks like, what the texture feels like, what the colors really look like, so the manuals, everything that you can that differentiates an original from a fake. It'll come in handy, trust me. So we used to look at serial numbers and saying, oh, this doesn't match this device, so it's not it. But now these guys have gotten clever. Fake devices now have real serial numbers, real email numbers, and it's scary. You look up the email ID and it's going to show you the original device. If it's an iPhone, it's going to show you this iPhone was manufactured by Apple in California, it's this color, etc., etc. But in reality, that device is fake. So what's happening? These guys are stealing serial numbers from devices that have been either made before and are no longer in use, or the existing devices. Someone is using their phone somewhere, but their ID number, their email ID has been stolen and is being used on a fake gadget, which is very, 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 which is very disappointing because many people are falling into this trap. So I wouldn't recommend you check the email number just for safety reasons. Maybe do, maybe don't. It really doesn't matter these days. You're probably gonna find that it's the same. But checking, learning more about what you're buying is probably your best bet. Know everything about that device, the dimensions, everything of that sort. What does the skin look like? The software, what does it look like? My third advice for you guys, if you want to buy a smartphone, then don't do it under a tree. If you find an original device that is secondhand, there's no harm in taking it. I mean, most of the time in my experience, these gadgets have functioned pretty much well for me, and there's no reason that they shouldn't for you. I mean, if you are one who doesn't like second-hand gadgets, then I really highly recommend that you use good channels to buy these devices. For example, people run away from Econet, from buying phones from Econet. They're saying they're expensive. But if you check the prices from Econet, they're actually the original prices of those original devices. So probably the best thing with buying things from there, is you're going to have the original thing. And sometimes, in fact, all the time, it's always good to buy from a trusted supplier, So if you can go and buy a device from a trusted source, then you're probably going to be safer rather than just buying a device for the sake of, hey, this looks legit. There's a lot of guys, I'll drop the names in the description list below and you can check them out. By the way, none of these guys are sponsoring this video. So it's always better. You just go to the expensive but trustworthy guys than to the cheap but shady people. Is it shady? Yeah, shady people. So with that being said, guys, I think you should be very careful. Now, coming to the refurbished devices, this is particularly now too well popular in the iPhone devices. You have got to buy refurbished devices being sold as brand new in Zimbabwe, and this is a pandemic. I say it's a pandemic because it's now everywhere in Zimbabwe now. You can't even get an original iPhone in Zimbabwe that is directly from Apple. These guys are just taking devices from China and Dubai and coming here and selling them as being brand new. They advertise them as being brand new boxed. I had this experience. I think it was on Monday. I was trying to buy an iPhone 12 and somebody said it was brand new and boxed. But when I opened that box, that device, upon inspecting it, I saw that it had very, very significant scuff marks. Like, how do you have scuff marks on a brand new device? And Apple wouldn't allow such a device to leave their factories. They're called defects. If a device has scuff marks, those devices are taken off the line and they will never be sold by Apple. But these people are taking refurbished devices and calling them brand new. And the risk with refurbished devices is that you never know how they're going to function. Some of them will overheat. Some of them will just die on you. But some of them will probably work well. In my experience, I've never had a problem with a refurbished device, but I wouldn't want anyone to be using refurbs as a default option. If you have the money to buy something brand new from a trustworthy source like from Econet, I suggest you go there and buy a brand new device rather than sticking to these guys who scam you of your money. And it's very terrible, guys. So if you implement these things I've told you, you're probably going to find that it's going to be easier for you to buy an original device. Now, for iPhones, you should really be careful about iPhones being advertised as the newer versions of iPhone. Like, in my experience, I had this other guy who was selling an iPhone 14 and it was actually well priced. Like, it was going for $900, the 1TB version of the 14 Pro Max. So I was like, okay, this has to be legit, right? And then I get there and I'm shooting photos on it. I didn't want to buy it exactly. I wanted to check it out because I didn't have that much money to spend on a gadget. But I'm shooting with the camera and then I noticed something. By that time I was using an iPhone XR and I'm like, okay, this device functions a little slower. Why? Why is this happening? So I covered the lenses. The iPhone 14 Pro Max is 3 lenses at the back of it, 3 cameras. So I covered each lens and shot a photo at different focal lengths. And the different focal lengths will give you a different lens to use. That is, you've got your 1x lens, then you've got your main camera, right? Then you've got a telephoto. Now these things are going to behave differently. When you choose a different lens, it's going to switch to one of those 3 lenses, right? So then I noticed that only one lens was functional, meaning this device was probably another inferior device just encased in a newer casing of the newer iPhones. So I was like, okay, so how many people have been scammed into buying these things? Because just a casing is just the housing that's been changed, but somebody took a motherboard probably from an iPhone 11 or even an X and put it in an iPhone 14 Pro Max body, and they started selling it as an iPhone 14 Pro Max, and many people would actually fall into those traps. And guys, look out for these kinds of things. They are happening. It's really happening in Zimbabwe, and I really think you should be careful, very, very careful with what you buy out there. So, with that being said, I hope you get some sense of knowledge from all of this, and hopefully you won't be scammed of your money. That being said, peace.